Okay. Okay. So Ashma, did you test? Is it working?
Yes, Sarika, it worked. I could
Okay.
hear.
Fine. You do one thing. Ashma and Sagar, you people start recording. I'm going to start the class now.
Yes,
Okay.
I might not be able to record it because the free version has expired. So it
Okay.
just give
Fine.
me the for 5 minutes.
Oh, not a problem. Paras, are you there? Let's do one thing. Paras and Ashma, both of you record my class today. Then we'll check.
Okay.
Then we'll check. Like if it is not giving any problem with you, then we'll take one recording out of them. Before sharing, you just go through the recording and check it. If it is
Okay.
working properly, then you can share with everyone. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. You can start the recording and let's discuss about constructors today. You can reply me through the chat window. Okay. So we were discussing constructors yesterday. I told you already the definition of constructor. Constructor is a special method which is used to initialize the newly created object. Okay. Now tell me what should be the name of the constructor? I told you there are some rules we have to follow when you define the constructor, right? Okay. What should be the name of the constructor?
Same as the class name.
Yes. And what should be the return type of the constructor?
There is no return type. Yeah, it will take it from the class name.
Yeah, constructors won't have no return type. It won't have any return type, not even void. Remember it. Okay. And what about the access modifier? What should be the access modifier of the class constructor?
Same as the class name.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So if you have a class and if you are not defining any constructor, what happens in that situation? So is it mandatory to write a constructor in your class?
No.
It's not mandatory. If you don't have a constructor, default constructor will be generated by the JVM. I mean, you can say the compiler. Compilation happens first before the execution. So if you don't have any constructor, the default constructor will be generated by the compiler. And the default constructor will be parameterized constructor or no argument constructor.
We don't know.
Okay, it is a no argument constructor. It will not have any parameters. Okay, so for example, let me say you have a class like this, public class, my class, or anything. It is just a class name. Okay, this is my class. This is how my class looks like. Now I don't have any constructor here. I just have a sysout. I'm just writing the shortcut. Don't get confused inside my class. So what happens when you run this code? So during compilation, what happens when you run this code? Your default constructor will be generated. Your class looks like this now. Okay. And here the default constructor will be generated. I told you the constructor name has to be same as that of the class name. And constructor looks like a method. constructor will have a body and it looks like a method. It looks like this. So any confusion till here? So this is the default constructor which is generated by the compiler. Okay, and the default constructor will always be the no argument constructor. It will not have any parameters. If I say parameters or arguments, both means the same thing. Don't get confused. This is the default constructor. Which is generated by the. Okay, just tell me in which situation the default constructor gets generated. I have few questions. Just answer me the question immediately.
If we don't create our own constructor,
Okay, and how many number of constructors you can create inside a class?
any number depending on the parameters given.
Okay, G1 said 3. Why 3? There is no such rules. You can have any number of constructors, but the rule is the parameters has to be different. Constructor, I told you, constructor is, it is a method, but it is little different than the method. It is a, you can say a constructor is special method. So you can have any number of methods inside a class, but the parameter has to be different. For methods, we were calling it as method overloading. For constructors, we call it as constructor overloading. Okay, let me quickly create a project, quickly create a constructor, and let me just show you. Okay, so let me just quickly create Java project. Just a minute. I just created a project. Let me create a class. I just want to explain you. Let me create a book class. This is my book class and I'm just giving you the package name. So now I don't have any parameters. Let me define two parameters which are related to this book. Okay, let me define book name. You can call it as book title and book price. Okay. What are the initial values of these fields? Let me define a main method and let me try to print them. Okay. I have to make them static because I am accessing from them from a static method. If I run it, the default values will be null and 0 because I didn't set any values here. So by default, it won't give me any values. Let me just run it. The output is as expected. We don't have any values for our fields, so it's giving me the default values. So let me do one thing. Now I want to create an object. So let me just create a driver class. I want to access these elements from the driver class. Please understand, please try to understand carefully. So now I have my construct. I don't have any constructor here. So the default constructor generated by the compiler, but I want to use my own constructor. Let me try to write my constructor. How to identify the constructor? You will have so many methods inside your class. You can identify your constructor with the name. Name of your constructor is exactly same as that of the class name. Okay. So when this block of code executed, This is nothing but a constructor, right? So I told you already, methods get executed only when they are called. But constructor is a special method. It has some special privileges. So this constructor gets executed when you create object. When you create object for this class, this block of code gets executed. Let me quickly create a project and let me show you whether the constructor gets executed or not. Okay, I'm not doing anything here. I'm just creating object, that's it. And to know whether this block of code has been executed or not, I'm just putting a sysoc. Then only I'll understand control came to this particular line of code or not inside the constructor. Okay. So let me just run this. I'm not, please observe carefully. I am not printing anything. I am not calling any method. I am not doing anything with the object. I just wrote a single line of code, which is nothing but creating object. Creating object. If I run this code, what's the output? Inside the constructor. So when you create an object, your constructor gets executed. For example, I have another method here. Let me say I have a method public void book details. Okay, this is my another method inside. Okay, now how many methods I have in this class?
2.
Can you tell me the names of those two methods? Three. Why three, Barsha? We don't have three methods. This is not a method. I told you constructor is a special method, but now onwards you should call it constructor. Okay, don't call it as a method. And somebody said we have two constructors here. How can you say we have two constructors? We have only one constructor here. Let me check who said two constructors. Okay, Bharsha, what should be the name of the constructor? Class. So what is the class name? Book. And what is my method name? Book details. Both are different. So you have to identify which is the constructor and which one is the method. This is method, not a constructor. Okay, and this is main method. So I have a main method, I have book details method, and I have a constructor. So, but when I create a object, only constructor gets called. Let me run it again and show you. See, I got only inside constructor output. When you create object, only your constructor gets called. Your other methods, they won't get called. You have to call them explicitly. If I want to execute these lines of code, I have to call explicitly here, object dot book details. Now this particular block of code gets executed. Let me show you the output now. Okay. So methods get executed when you explicitly call them, but constructors get executed when you create an object. You understood this much?
Yes.
Are you clear till here? Before I could move on, because I have to discuss about the constructor chaining and constructor overloading. That is little tricky. You have to understand this much, then only you'll be able to understand those two concepts. Okay? Okay, fine. Now I will introduce more than one constructor in single class. Let me just put this screenshot. Okay. So now I told you yesterday, you can write any number of constructors inside a class. But what is the point behind writing it? Okay, shall I keep this method or remove it? Will it confuse you? Is it okay if I keep this method as it is? Okay, fine. So now let me write. Okay, what is the main purpose of the constructor? Constructor is used to give some values to the object. But why you want to give some values to the object? My question. I created object. That's well and good. But why I want to give values to my object? Because at some situations you have to provide the default values to your object. When you create object for this class and when you print them, they are coming as null and zero. But instead of that, you want to provide some title, you want to provide some book title, you want to provide some price. If you want to provide the default values, you have to use the constructor. Constructors are used to objects. Okay, you want to provide some default values. How you provide the default values? For that, you can use the constructor. So I'll do one thing. What I'm saying is initially the values are zero. But when this class is instantiated, I want to provide some values. So what I'll do is this dot. Okay. But I have to, okay. Let me introduce one more constructor here. Constructor name should be same as that of class name. Now tell me, I just added one more constructor. Why it is giving me error?
It has no does not have
They are very much clear on that. Okay. So let me create another object. If I want to call the second, let me just create another object. Okay. Now how many constructor gets called? Now how many constructor gets called?
2.
Okay. So what we are saying here is if this constructor gets called, if the no argument constructor gets called, then give the initial values. Let me put some initial values. Okay. Can I define some initial values here for the title and the price?
Yes.
Okay. Let me just say, just tell me some Java title, Java book title, any book.
Everything about Java.
Okay. Everything about Java. So what I'm trying to say here is I have a class. In that class I have two fields. Okay. If somebody is trying to create the object for my class, give them these two values. If they are creating a no argument constructor, then provide the default values. Okay. If they are not, if they are passing some other value, see the user is passing some other values. So here I have to set the value or not. Here I have to change the book title. So what I will do? For changing the book title, what I have to use here?
this dot
This.
book
This
title.
dot. Okay. Equal to book title. You can write anything here. You can say new book title also. It is just a variable. Okay. What happens? When this constructor gets created, your control comes here. And if you want to print those values, you will get the default values. Okay. Let me just try to show you. B dot book title. And you have to tell me the output also. Okay. Now here, let me print from the second object. Okay. what I'm trying to say here is, if the user is creating the empty object, if the user is creating an object without any parameter, call this constructor and set the default values. I am not setting anything here. Whatever the default values are defined already, they will be used as it is. Okay. But if the user is passing if the user is calling the parameterized constructor, that means he has to pass some value. He is passing some value. So just take the value and update that value with the existing default value. So the default value gets replaced. Is it clear? Okay. Now I want to write one more constructor for the book price. Shall I do that? Of course I can do that. I just put int book price. Here also I'll do the same thing, int new book price. When this constructor gets called? When this constructor gets called? This gets called when you create an object with the integer parameter. Like this. Equal to new book. I have to pass some integer here. Let me pass the head first Java prices. Let me say it is $50. So in this situation, this constructor gets called because the parameters are matching. Okay. So here what I'm trying to do is the initial value is 25, but I don't want it. I got the new value, so I'm just changing it. So that means object has some values. I am giving the I am initializing the object with some values or not. Okay. So this is called constructor overloading. Let me try to print that here also. Book title and book price. Let me just try to print here. Now you have to tell me the output. Just I'll give you 1 minute. Just go through the program once, try to understand it, and then tell me the output. Let's see who gives me the correct output. Okay, let's just go through the program once. Okay, I have multiple sysouts here, so you have to tell me, don't just tell me one output. You have to just go through the exam and tell me the proper output. Only one person ping me the output. So shall I run it and show you? Mm, inside constructor. I think Ishan, it's somewhat correct, not 100%. So shall I run the program? Shall I run the program? Oh,
One
you
sec.
have your own book name. But I asked output for my program, not your program. Okay, let me just run the program and show you. Right click, just run as. You have to cross check your output. Okay. So any confusion with this output? Let me put the console here. Okay. Let me just take the screenshot and let me explain you. So what you call this concept? I am explaining constructor, but I have multiple constructor with different parameters. So what you call this feature?
Constructor overloading.
Correct. We call it as constructor overloading. Just remember it. It's a very important interview question. Okay, it was cropped. Just a minute. Okay, so please try to understand. Let me share the screen. Can you see my paint screen? I think you can see that. So I am running this class. The program execution always starts from main. So my control comes here first. My control comes at this line. And the program execution, we know the program execution happens from top to bottom. My program execution starts from here, and this is my first line of code which has to be executed. Okay. This is my first line of code. So from here, the JVM understands that we are creating an object. We are creating the object for book class. So the first step is it has to allocate the memory, and second step is it has to invoke the constructor. So the respective constructor gets invoked. It comes here. Okay. It comes here and we get the sys out. That's why we got output here. This gets printed here. First line gets printed. Okay. This output gets printed from here. This is the second step, and now the control goes where? This is externally. This is the control flow, but what's happening inside? When you create a constructor, it's not only printing the constructor, it's also initializing your object. So when your constructor gets invoked, whatever the default values are there, these default values will be given to the object. So now your B will have these two values. So with B, I am again trying to print the book title and the price. So with this line again, those respective values gets printed on the console. This is 4 and this is 5. It is very straightforward. You have your sysouts on your system, they simply gets printed on the console. So these are the values which are getting printed. Is it too much, or is this explanation is too much, or this is helping you? This is the first flow. This is the first flow with this. Again, when you create another object, same patterns repeat. So this is the second time you are creating an object. So the control comes here. This is the next step, and it understands that you are creating an object, but this time you are invoking the different constructor. We have multiple constructors available in the class, so it will check the type of the parameter you are passing. You are passing string parameter, so it will check for the respective constructor. So this constructor matches with that. This particular constructor gets invoked. This constructor gets invoked. I don't have any sins out inside it. So nothing gets printed, but we are actually changing some value. We are changing some value. Whatever the book name the user is passing, we are setting the book title to the new book title. Okay, so the default value was everything about Java, but now the user want to change the title to head first Java. So the value has been changed, and as usual, when you create an object, the new values are given to your object. Now again, I am trying to print the values, they get printed. This time the book price is same, but the title gets changed. You can see the output here. You can see the output on the console. Same thing happens with another object also. Okay. Again, when you create an object, the respective constructor gets invoked, the value will be called. Okay, but my question, why are we creating so many constructors? Why don't we have a single constructor? Anybody has any answer for that?
To overload them.
Why you want to overload them? You can give the values them directly here, right? Even if you are not overloading them, still you can give the values here. Let me just remove them. Okay, I'm just removing it. And what is the limitation? I just removed it. Now see, it is giving me error. If I am removing that, I have to remove this also. It is syntactical, it is wrong. If you have a single constructor there, you can call only that constructor. You cannot overload them. But still it is fine, right? Even if I call single constructor, I am able to fetch the values, I am able to print the values. Why we are going for overloading again?
Because every time we have to change the default value, we have to go back to the
Exactly.
previous file and keep on changing that.
Exactly. Correct. So if you don't overload the constructor, every time you will have only these values. You are not allowing other user to give some values. Here the user is creating the object, but he is not able to set the value. That is the main reason behind the constructor. Okay, but my question again, what if I have parameterized constructor? Why don't have a constructor with all the parameters instead of this? Let me just remove this one also. Let me just remove this one. And let me just remove this one also. Let me have something which may solve our problem. Let me add one constructor to solve my problem. Okay. I want to add a constructor with both the values here. Okay, let me change the variable names. Otherwise, you may get confused. Let me change the variables as new book title, new book name. Just to make you understand that the variable is anything you can give, but you have to give a valid name. So here again, whoever calls this constructor has to pass two values. Those two values I have to use. I have to set them again. Okay. So what I am doing here? Okay, fine. Now I want to call this constructor from this class. So I have to pass two values, then the constructor gets called. First, let me pass the book title and let me pass, okay, tell me some Java book name.
Advanced
Yes,
Java
sir.
book.
Okay, this is my book name and this is my price. Okay, but it is okay. I have given the unnecessary quotation. So now the problem is solved. Don't you think my problem is solved? Why I need so many constructor? With a single constructor, I am able to pass the values. I am able to call this constructor. Do you see any problem here?
Yes.
What's the problem?
Because if a user wants to change just the book title, he will have to pass the price every time.
Exactly. So this is the limitation. You understood the concept. So here, what we are with this constructor, we are saying the user that, oh user, every time when you create an object, you have to pass me the values. If you are not passing the values, I will give you the error. Can you see the error here?
Yes.
Can you see the error? If your constructor is having some parameters, so in that situation, you have to pass the parameters. So we are forcing the user to pass the parameters. We are forcing another programmer to pass the parameters. Your code, whatever code you write here, it is not ready to accept anything which another programmer gives. So this is also not solving the problem. Is this solving the problem? No, right. So
No.
this is the reason we have multiple constructors. Let's define the multiple constructor here. So whatever the other programmer create the object, your program will run. Your program doesn't have any problem. If we create a constructor with parameters, no problem. Call the call an argument constructor. If your user creates one more constructor with two parameters, no issues. Your program will work for that situation also. This is the reason why we are going for the constructor overloading. You understood now? Got some idea? Hello?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is the reason. So in this situation, let me set as it is. Whatever I have here, I will set as it is. I am not changing anything. If you see, I am not changing anything. If somebody is invoking the default constructor, provide them default values. Sorry. If somebody is calling the no argument constructor, provide the default values. If somebody is calling the parameterized constructor, then whatever parameters they pass, just set them and provide them. Okay. Let me add two more constructors. I can add two more constructors, right? I can create constructors so that whatever object I create, it has to work. So, any doubts or is it clear? Why are we creating so many constructors? So we are not forcing the programmer to pass any values. It's up to the programmer. He can pass anything. He can call any constructor. It will work. Okay, I got some messages in the chat window. Let me just open. Shouldn't the JVM create default constructor? Ishan is correct, yeah. When the JVM run your class, if it sees at least one constructor, if it has at least one constructor, it won't create any constructor for you. If you have zero constructor, then only it will create one for you. Okay? The JVM doesn't come into picture even if you have a single constructor. Fine. So now my program looks like this. When I create the object without parameters, my default constructor gets invoked. When I create one more object with only book price, book B1 equal to new book, I want to create an object, I want to pass book price. So in this situation, this particular constructor gets invoked. So we are not forcing programmer, it's up to him. He can create any constructor. We are responsible. If he is not passing any values, the default values are given to the object. If he is passing some values, in this situation, he is passing the price. So for price, we are setting it $80 and the name, we are keeping it as it is. Okay. Any doubts? So this concept is called constructor overloading. Constructor overloading means having multiple constructors in a single class. Let me just put the screenshot of this. Let me just remove this method. Okay. So we are good with the constructor overloading. I want to explain you about the constructor chaining. Okay, but before that, just take a minute, go through this line of code, then I'll start constructor chaining. Okay, Ashma, you can pause the recording. Don't stop it. Just pause it. I'll ask few questions, then we'll move on to the next topic. Okay? Just Paras and Ashma, just pause the execution. Pause the recording. Okay, so everybody is clear with this program, right? Okay, anyone has any question? There are some new people I want to understand. If anyone has any questions, I don't know why people are joining so late. Some people are joining the class even now. It's already 1 hour. You have to be on time, otherwise you'll miss some important concepts. Okay, so anyone has any doubts? If you want to practice it, I'll give you 2 minutes, you can practice it. You want to practice or you already practiced? Okay, fine. Okay, so we have done discussing about the constructor overloading. But like the problem with constructor overloading is if I want to call all the constructors, then I have to create the multiple objects. You can start the recording. Okay, I have to create. Okay, so now we are going to discuss about constructor chaining. The definition of constructor chaining is calling one constructor from another constructor. Okay, what is constructor overloading? Having multiple constructors inside a single class. Constructor chaining. Constructor chaining is calling one constructor from another constructor. You can call one constructor from another constructor, and for that you use this. Just remember it. Just remember this one. You use this to call one constructor from another constructor. Okay. So how many constructors I have here? I have 4 constructors. Okay, let me just remove this. I am creating a single object and this constructor gets called. Instead of passing the parameters from there, I can pass the parameters from here. Let me just remove everything from here. Just remove it. I'm just removing it. That's absolutely fine. I don't get any syntax errors. Now I have 4 constructors. So when I create the object here, my control comes to the no argument constructor. Now from here, if I want to pass the values, what I have to do? See, let's assume that I don't have any initial values. I have null and I have 0. I want to set the values now. I can set here. But at the same time, I also want to call the no argument constructor. Call the argument constructor. How can I do that? I can do that using this. But which constructor you want to call? Tell me, I have 3 constructors. I want to call one constructor among that. Which constructor you want to call?
Your book title.
Book title. Then you have to pass the string parameter. Then you have to pass advanced principles. Here again, depending upon your parameter, the respective constructor gets called. Okay. From here again, now this constructor gets called. When JVM is this line, it comes here. Because with this line, your respective constructor gets called with matching parameter. So my control comes here. From here again, you can call one more constructor. Which constructor you want to call?
Integer book price.
It's up to you. You can call any constructor. Okay, now which constructor gets called? This one, right? Here again, I want to call the two parameters constructor. So let me just pass two values and the respective constructor gets called. Okay. So we are calling one constructor from another constructor. This is how we make the constructor chaining. And at the end, what I want to do here, I just want to assign the values. Whatever I get here, whatever I get from above, I am passing here. And so if you observe closely, we are not setting these values everywhere. We are setting it the one common place. Okay. So now let's tell me, just tell me what happens. So what happens in this situation? Which constructor gets called? What happens here? Here you are calling this, right? So this constructor
Yes.
gets called because you are passing the price, and again from this you are calling the next constructor. So it goes here. Okay. And what happens here again? So here what happens? You are passing the book title. So your respective constructor gets called. Again, from here we are passing the price. This constructor gets called. Again, the respective constructor gets called. Okay. So instead of calling the multiple constructor, you can call a single constructor, and you can actually, you can, instead of having these many times to create the object, just create the object only once. Just create the object only once. You don't have to create the memory. You don't have to keep the memory again and again. Just create one object which calls the default constructor. And from here, you call another object, you call another constructor by passing the values. Whatever value you want to pass, just pass it. The respective constructor gets called. And here you can remove these constructors. This is just to make you understand how we call one constructor from another constructor. So now your object will have all the values. Okay. So you have any doubts? We are setting at only one location. We are setting the values only in this constructor. Okay, if you want me to run it, okay, I can also print the values. P dot. Let me just run it. So can you see this? Whatever the values were last updated, they will be maintained. Okay, because they are passing advanced here, again we have changed. So the latest value will be considered. The importance of this is to call one constructor from another constructor. So now your object will have all the values.
Necessary to do constructor chaining all the time, or we can just go with the regular constructor method?
It's not mandatory. It's up to you. See, you are setting one book title in one constructor and you are keeping the default values in one constructor. So it completely depends on your requirement. If the programmer is not passing any value, just set the default values. If the programmer is passing some value, you have to travel through all the constructor to get all values to your object. The point behind calling constructor is you want to give some values to your object. So go from one constructor to another so that your object will have all the values. Okay. And remember, there is one rule for this again. It has to be the first statement inside your body. Okay, let me write one more line here. Let me write this out. It's giving error. Can you see? If you are using this, it has to be the first statement. Because when you are using this, that means from one constructor you want to call another constructor. So before you could execute your logic, just call another constructor, execute that, then get it here. Okay? Just try to understand it. Let me just explain you with another example. Let me just create one more class. You'll understand clearly. My employee class. Let me just quickly define few properties so that you'll understand it. Okay, I just have a class and I just have the 3 fields for my class. Here I just have the no argument constructor. Let me create a driver class and let me just create object there. This example I am explaining for constructor chaining. Okay, this is for constructor chaining. How we chain the constructor? By chaining, how we achieve the initialization of the object. Constructor chaining. So let me quickly create object for this my employee class. In the obj equal to new. Now I don't have any values. I have 3 fields here, but if I let me try to print it. I have 3 fields. If I try to print them, I get null and 0, right? Employee age. And let me put them inside the sysout. Employee name, employee tab. Okay. Now you know the output. Let me just run it. I don't have any values. I don't have even the default values. So as expected, I got 0, null, 0. Okay. But instead of that, I want to give some values. When my object gets created, my object has to have some values. So what I'm trying to give here is, let me just do one thing. So here from this, I want to call one more constructor. For calling one more constructor, I have to use this, right? So here what I want to pass the constructor, I want to pass employee name. Let me pass employee name. Just tell me one employee name. I am giving the employee name as Sarika. Okay. So what it does? Why it is giving me error? Tell me.
Because we don't have another constructor with
Exactly.
one parameter.
For that, I have to create another constructor. Now I have the another constructor. Let me remove public. I don't need to explicitly mention it. My class has it, so it will take that. So in this situation, my constructor gets called, right? Now here, I have, this is for the name. Let me write one more constructor with salary. Now tell me what happens. Again, it's giving error for the same reason. I want to pass it, right? Okay. let me just try to create another constructor. Okay. Here I want to pass, this is the new employee name. Here I want to pass this new employee name. I want to pass this salary also. It is giving me error because I want to have one more constructor here. Let me have the constructor with all the fields. Now please observe what I'm trying to do here. New employee name, new employee salary. So what I'm trying to do here is this dot employee name equal to new employee name. Okay, again this dot employee sal equal to new employee sal. This dot employee age, this I am setting here. Employee age I want to set as that. Let me print the values now. Now what is the output? Let me put them side by side. Tell me the output. What's the output? Okay, let me just run it. Got it. So what difference you found with this example? Did you see any difference of this program with the previous program? Did you observe any difference?
Yes.
What's the difference?
You change the
We're just using one constructor to get all the values from other constructor too.
So what we are doing is first constructor has one value, second constructor has one more value. So you are just passing all the values to one constructor. There you are setting the values. When you are setting this dot with this line helps your object to have this value. So with this line, what you have to understand that, okay, this is my object, I am giving these values to the object. Just like I told you the example yesterday, whoever have doubt, I'll say that, okay, this student has some doubt, let me clear him, let me help this student. So here what my JVM understand, okay, this means the particular object which is currently working on this block of code. For that object, I am setting the employee name as the new employee name, whatever I got. So here, if you observe clearly, you are not setting the values everywhere. You are setting the values only in one constructor. Okay? Are you setting the values anywhere? Let me open the previous example. Let me open. Okay, not this one. Okay, I think I removed it. Okay, but did you understand this? So the main idea behind constructor chaining is calling one constructor from another constructor. Okay. So here.
Sarika, I have a question.
Yes.
Can we call non-parameter constructor from the one with the parameter?
Of course, you can. You want me to show you that?
Yes, because I got an error while I tried to do this.
Definitely. Okay. Let me do one thing here. Let me pass Sarika here. So if I pass Sarika, this constructor gets called, but you have to come to this constructor once. Okay. Let me call Sarika from here. So in this situation, your no argument constructor won't be invoked, right? So you just tell me, whoever asked me doubt, which constructor gets invoked with this line?
The second one.
Right? From the second one, we are going to which constructor?
The third one.
Third one. Here we are setting the values, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What I will do here, I will go to the first constructor.
Yeah, I had the same error.
Because I have this one here. Because if you are defining one flow, you should not confuse. You should not put them at dead end, right?
Oh, okay.
Okay, it has to be the proper. Your control is coming here. From here it is going here. From here again it is going here. This is very much clear. Okay,
Yes, I
you
got
are
it.
understanding now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So it absolutely works. If you want to check whether this constructor gets called or not, you can print something here. Then you will understand this constructor got called. Okay. If you want to call the no argument constructor, just call like this. If you want to call the parameterized constructor, just pass the values and then call. So what is the idea behind the constructor chaining? Calling one constructor from another constructor. What is the reason behind doing this? We can set the values at one place instead of multiple places. Okay. Now let's understand this. Okay. Let me just remove everything. Now let's understand. Okay. So here, if I say this one, my default constructor gets invoked, right? But I have to explain you about the loops. I want to add some loops here. I want to check some condition with the if loop, but I haven't discussed if loop yet. Okay, you try to understand till here. I will explain the remaining concepts later after introducing the loops. Okay, why it is giving me error? Because of the closing brace. So any doubts? Are you following? Okay, fine. So this is about the constructor. I think yesterday also I discussed, but I think today class helped you much, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I want to discuss about the operators. We have different types of operators available in Java. So anyone has any idea what is an operator? What are the different types of operators are available in Java? Let me just open in the Google. Let me share you my screen. Okay. There are multiple operators available. Arithmetic operators we already know. Okay. Arithmetic operators, assignment operators, comparison, logical, bitwise. Okay. I think if you can see my screen, all of you are aware of these operators, right? Yeah, I have to discuss about super also. Super is used to call the superclass constructor. Can I discuss this tomorrow? Because I have a reason for that. It's already 11:30. I want to discuss the important concept in the morning. Okay. Let me discuss operators now because it is simple. Just remind me tomorrow.
Yeah,
Thanks,
sure.
sir. I forgot it. I'll explain you tomorrow. Just remind me once about the super keyword. Okay. With constructor, we also have something called super. I'll explain you that keyword tomorrow. Super is used to call the superclass constructor. Is used to call superclass constructor. This we'll discuss tomorrow. Okay. Now let me quickly explain you the operators. Arithmetic operators, all of you know, the plus, minus and all. Arithmetic operators. It works exactly how it works in the general mathematics. If you add plus, it adds. If you put minus, it subtracts. If you do star, it multiplies. If you divide, it divides. Okay. Along with these arithmetic operators, we also have some operators called increment and decrement. So let me discuss about increment and decrement. Anybody has any idea on the increment and decrement operators?
Increment operators help increase the value, and decrement helps decrease given value.
Okay. But here also, we use something, let me just show you. I think for plus and minus, I don't need to give you the example, right? It's very simple. Do you want me to show adding two numbers and show you the output? Is it fine? That's fine. Okay. Let me just try to explain you the increment and decrement operators. Okay. This is the assignment operator. We know already. Okay. I will explain you something which is important. Okay. Just tell me, what is this? This is a variable declaration and initialization. You know that, right? Okay.
We cannot see your screen.
Fine, let me share. If you can't see my screen, inform me immediately. Okay. So everybody knows what is this line, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what I am
Declaring.
doing here, I am just initializing, declaring and initializing one variable. Okay. So let me try to do, okay. What do you understand by this? What I am doing here, what is the value of B? 10.
It
So
is
this is
referring
called
to
the assignment operator.
declaring.
This is called assignment operator. So whatever the value you have left, you have right side, that comes and sits on your left side variable. Okay. So what if I change it? Like I have wrote something like this. So the B value becomes 20. The B value will be, it is giving me error. Okay, because I am declaring it again. I have it already. That's why it is giving me error. So every time equal to is called assignment operator. Every time when you use equal to, whatever you have left right side, that value will be saved into the memory location of the left side variable. So everybody clear with this assignment operator?
So can you repeat one more time, please?
Okay, equal to is called assignment operator. Assignment operator we used to give the values. Okay. So when you say this, let me just explain you with the paint. Let me open paint. And just explain you assignment operator. So when I say something like this, what happens at the back end? This 10 value will be saved inside the memory location of A. That's why we call it as assignment operator. We are assigning 10 value to A. That means we have a memory location inside Java which has some address whose reference is A. Reference is different and the value is different. Value is 10 here and the name is A here. For example, if I declare one more variable, if I say int b equal to A. So what I have left side here? I have left side B. So inside my new variable will be created. I have one more variable here and my variable reference name is B. And what is the value of B here? A is whatever value is inside A that gets saved inside B. That means 10 value comes and sits here. Every time when you see the equal to, you understand that whatever you have right side, that value will be saved in the left side variable. This we call it as equal to, we call it as assignment operator. Okay. Are you clear now? Okay. Is that clear? Okay. So let me tell you two operators, increment and decrement. Increment, we call it as, we show it as plus plus, and decrement, we show it as minus minus. There is one difference here. You can do increment in two ways, like what is the A value here? Let me just remove it if it confuses you. Okay. So what is the A value here? A value is 10. If I want to increment A value, I can do A plus plus. I can even print that. Now tell me the output. Now tell me the output, please. 11. Okay, tell me the output now. Tell me two outputs. What I get in the first line, what I get in the second line. Okay, 2 times I get 11. Okay, any more outputs? Arjan, why it becomes 10 again? Once a value gets incremented, it won't get decremented again because we are not decrementing it. Okay, let me just show you the output. See, I got 10 and 11. But why I got 10? I am incrementing it, right? My output is here I got 10. For this line, I got 10. And for this, I got 11. I am incrementing, but still why I got 10?
It's because the value A will be first of all stored and then give you the result of A.
Exactly.
And after that, the value
Just
will
increment.
change. But before the value change, it will print out. So at the first, you will have 10, and then after the value change, you'll have 11.
Okay. Now tell me the output.
But if you do plus plus A, then the story will be different.
Yes. So everybody, few people don't know the concept. Okay, let me just tell them. If I do A plus plus, you know here what happens? First line of code, first code gets executed, then value will be incremented. I am doing A plus plus. So what happens here? A gets incremented, but not at this line. A gets incremented after the execution of this line. So for this line, as I am printing here, I'll get the value as 10. Because whatever is available that gets printed, we are incrementing it. It will get incremented, but after the execution of line. So here you can say execute first, increment next. So here again, I am again printing A. By this line, this is the next line. So by this time, the value has already incremented to 11. So the A value is 11. It gets printed. I know most of you got confused. So let me just have 20 here. Let me just show you. Or let me keep as it is. Let me declare one more variable. Int is equal to 20. Okay. Now tell me the output. I want. See. Tell me the output now. Everyone. I want output for these two lines. 21 and 21. Exactly. You know, for this, increment first, execute next. That is the difference between plus plus A and plus plus B. Here value of C is 21. Okay. Whoever don't understand this, didn't understand this, you can ask.
I think we need more example because it's confused a little bit.
Okay,
Is it
let
C
me
plus
explain
plus
you.
or plus plus C?
See my main screen? Okay, let me explain you here. Okay. So let me just explain you here. Here I am declaring a variable. Okay. Here I am saying x equal to 30. Internally, what happens? A memory block will be allocated whose reference name is x and whose value is 30. Okay, this is very much clear. Everyone knows this, right? This is what happens at the backend. Okay. So what I am doing here is I am just incrementing the value. I am just incrementing the value. I am just doing x plus plus. I am just incrementing the value. You know what happens? this line gets executed. First, the JVM executes this line, then it prints the, for example, let me just say, let me say int y equal to x. So what is x value here? So here the JVM executes this, but this for this line the x value is 30. Here value of x is 30. Here if you say plus plus, it increments it, but after the execution of line. Now what is the value of y here? What is the value of y?
31.
31, because the x value has been changed. After the execution of this line, x value will be changed as 31. Okay, now x value will be changed as, it will become 31 here. So when I say plus plus later, it says execute first, increment next.
So plus plus
Okay.
x and x plus plus, is that the same thing?
They doesn't do the same thing. If I say x plus plus, I am informing the JVM. You execute this line, but increment the x value later. For example, I have 100 lines here. I have 100 lines of code. In middle somewhere, I have a plus plus. So what I am informing the JVM that you execute this line of code. For this line of code, for this for this particular line, the value a value will be the old value, and a value becomes incremented for the next line of code. Okay, you just remember this. Execute this line first, then increment next. For this particular line, a value will be the same old value. From next line onwards, the incremented value will be available. Okay, but if you use plus plus before the variable, then you are informing the JVM that okay, increment the variable value right now. Even for this line of code, you have to use the incremented value. So even for this line, the C value will be 21. It will be incremented then used. So we are saying the JVM, you forget about this line of code. You just increment it, then you start executing from this line of code. Okay. Still confused or are you clear? Okay. Anybody is still confused, you can ask me.
Well, it will be better, and I think we need more practice, and then we figure out. But it will be better.
A few students are clear. I request anyone. Yeah, tell me something. Anybody want to explain more on this? Who understand it? I think few students they understood it. You want to explain it? Ishan or someone, can you want to explain it to other students? Okay, fine, no problem. You just do it 2 times, you'll understand it. And same with the decrement operator also. If I say minus minus, for example, let me add 2 more variables. Let me use the same variables here. Okay. Let me just say a minus minus. You have to tell me the output. A. Then let me say. Now tell me the output. Got so many outputs. Let me just run it. I'm going to run it. Just cross check whether your output is correct or not. Okay. Okay, I got 11, 10, 9, 9. Few people said the correct output. Nice. Let me explain to them who didn't say the correct output. Okay, so here I am decrementing it. So at this line of code, what is the value of A here? Initial value of A is 10. I am incrementing it here. So A value is 11. Again here I am decrementing, but for this particular line of code, A value remains the same. It will get incremented for the next line. So here it becomes 10 because we are decrementing it in the previous line. Again, here we are decrementing, but we are using minus before. So A value will be immediately decremented. Even for this line and for the next line, the decremented value will be used. So got an idea? You just do it 2-3 times, you will understand it. You just remember it. It is plus or minus. If you do plus after the variable, then execute first, increment next. If you use plus before, increment first, execute next. Same thing here. Execute first, decrement next. What's here? Decrement first, then execute next. Okay, just go through it once. So this is about the increment and decrement operators. Okay, no problem. And we also have logical operators. Shall I teach you the logical operators today or tomorrow? I want to check your activeness, whether you're sleeping or active, or this is too much. Okay, Elena, oh my God, is so much interested. Great. If you are this much active, okay. Okay, multiple people are pinging. Okay, no problem. Let me quickly explain you the logical operators. I think the recording is too long, but what we can do. Okay, we have 3 logical operators. You just remember, for each and every operator, you just have to understand the concept behind it. You just have to understand the logic behind it. Okay, so we have 3 logical operators, and this is how it looks like. This is called AND operator. Let me put the multi-line comment so that I can explain you. Okay, this is called AND operator. AND operator. This is called OR operator. And this is called NOT operator. Let me just show you here. These are the logical operators. AND operator, OR operator, and NOT operator. Okay, there is a rule for it. If it is AND operator, AND returns true only when both are true. Okay. So let me just show you something. This is for AND operator. The rule for AND operator is if both are true, it returns true. If anyone is false, it returns false. So do you understand anything? I am writing something. If both are false, then and returns false. Okay? This is for and. This is called and operator. And what about or? We also have or, and it looks like this. You can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. Or returns true only, or returns true if either of the values are true. If any one value is true, then it's fine with it. Okay. So when both are true, or returns true. And when one is true and another one is false, then what are returns? It's true written here, it returns true here also. What about the third case? One is false and another one is true. It returns true here also. What about the last case? Both are false. So it returns false. You have to remember this logic. Okay? Okay. This is the rule for and. And returns true only when both are true. Or returns true if either of the values is true or both the values are true, then R returns true. So R is returning false when only both are false. And not operator. What is a not operator? Not operator is for the Boolean and it just gives you the opposite value of that. Okay. So let me just explain you. Not operator is used with the Boolean data type. Not, it just gives opposite value. Gives opposite value. But I think still if for understanding this, you need to know the loops. Okay. Shall I start discussing the loops tomorrow? If loop, for loop, switch loop, all those loops. I have to use the control flow statements. I also have to teach you the decision making loops. Okay, I'll do one thing. I'll teach you loops first, then you will understand this logical operators later. We'll start with the loops tomorrow and we will also discuss the super keyword in constructor. Okay? Okay, you can stop the recording. Okay, so anybody want to discuss anything with me? I want to know, is there anybody without the setup? Is there anyone still not ready with the setup, even now? Okay, there are some active students in my crew. I feel very happy for them because they always respond me, they always reply me. They always listen to the class with so much interest. They also motivate me. If you can help other students who are lagging, you will also learn. Okay, I'll also feel happy. If somebody want to take the responsibility of helping other students, that's well and good. Okay, whoever lagging, whoever don't have the setups ready, we have Ishan and Arjan. You can take help from them. Okay, you can also drop a message in the group if you need any help. If you are not coming up on your own, then nobody can help you. Okay, it's your responsibility. If you need some help, you have to ask. There are 26 students in the class. I don't know, like this class is online. I cannot go to each and every desk and check. If it is direct, that is a different story. So if you are lagging, only you have to come up. You have to ask. Then only we'll come to know that you are facing some difficulty. Even if you ask silly doubts, that's not a problem. Everybody is here to help you. This is especially